2020 continues. Is there proof of heaven? Once again, Elizabeth Vargas.
8 million Americans claim to have had a near-death experience, but neurosurgeon Eben never thought in 1,000 years he would be one of them.
What did you think those were?
Fantasies, hallucinations.
He was a man of science. He didn't believe in it. That is, he says, until it happened to him.
Let's talk about how you got sick. You woke up in the middle of the night feeling ill and in pain.
It was like being struck by a freight train. 4:30 in the morning, woke up, never had anything like that before. My last words to my wife, don't call 911. Trust me, I'm a doctor, it's just a muscle spasm. And I was gone.
Dr. Alexander had a rare and deadly form of bacterial meningitis which was infecting his brain. In a matter of hours, this healthy man was on death's door. By the time they got him to the hospital, he was in a coma.
So your wife was being told that you might die?
And that she would be raising our 2 boys without me.
But as his body lay in that hospital bed with no recognizable brain activity, Dr. Alexander says he had already begun an astounding journey. A journey to a place he'd said didn't exist.
Did you believe in heaven?
When I was younger, I thought a heaven and a loving God made sense, but through my academic neurosurgery career, I saw less and less that could be the case.
The journey began, he says, in a dark, formless place without memory, language, or time. But then
I was rescued from that by this spinning melody of light that came closer and opened up and was a rip in the fabric of reality that just opened up around me.
You described this world as hyper vivid.
The colors were extremely vivid with millions of butterflies. And these flowers blooming, blossoms opening as we flew by.
And by his side, an unknown presence.
There was a person guiding you, a beautiful girl, as you describe her. Tell me what she looked like.
She had a beautiful face with a wide smile and high cheekbones and absolutely gorgeous, clear blue eyes. She never said a word to me. She would look at me and the thoughts would come directly into my mind, into my awareness.
What thoughts?
And the thoughts were, you are loved, you are cherished. There's nothing you can do wrong. I always remember being told, we will teach you many things, but you'll be going back.
Back to the hospital where his wife kept her vigil and his doctors were giving up hope. On the 7th day of his coma, he opened his eyes.
It was just nothing but a miracle.
His first words, the very words he'd heard from his guide, that blue-eyed girl.
All is well. Don't worry, all is well.
Within weeks, Eben Alexander had made an astonishing full recovery.
How are you different after going through this experience?
Well, my family says I'm nicer.
That's a good thing.
It really has changed me in every way by realizing that our souls are eternal.
The book he has written, Proof of Heaven, has sparked a lot of controversy.
You know, you do have skeptics out there who are just saying it's not uncommon for people near death to have all sorts of funky things going on inside their bodies.
Well, that's why the fact that I had meningitis that was so severe, I mean, that should not have allowed for any experience. And then this with the eyes just shows how
his brain was so completely shut down that the visions he had could simply not have been generated there. He says he wrote down everything he remembered, now in his book, before speaking to anyone, so as not to taint his memory.
You then went on to read about other people's near-death experiences. Was it striking how similar what you had written was to what they had experienced?
It was absolutely astonishing.
I really felt the white light was God.
I stopped walking and I saw my grandma.
You could see peace, you could see love.
And all the other afterlife stories, everybody told of being guided by a loved one who had died. You had as your guide a girl you'd never met.
I must say that was very haunting. Why would I go through all that and not have my father there? My father, who was a neurosurgeon, I idolized him, and he had passed over 4 years earlier. Why wasn't he there?
And why the blue-eyed girl instead? Dr. Alexander had been adopted as a child. Years later, he found his birth family, all except for one, his birth sister, who died before he met them.
Her name was Betsy.
How old was she when she died?
She was 36 years old.
So Betsy you'd never met?
I just heard what a beautiful, loving soul she was. How she worked in a rape crisis center and took care of many people who were unfortunate. And she was just a very loving, loving person.
How was it that you came to see a picture of her?
My birth sister, Kathy, had promised to send me a picture of Betsy. And it was about 4 months after my coming out of the hospital when that picture arrived.
He opened the envelope and saw it for the first time. The photo, he says, was of that blue-eyed girl from his vision.
And it was so stunning. And that picture was almost as if she's saying, "Do you get it now?" And I cannot tell you how powerful that was. There was no mistaking it. That's exactly who it was.
Life is back to normal at the Alexander household these days. There are soccer games to watch, dinners to be shared, grace to be said. But Dr. Alexander says he's on a mission now.
I hope to tell my story to everyone I possibly can around this world, because I think it will help this world to be a much better place.
Never floated through a tunnel. He never saw a blinding light. The instant Don Piper died, he went straight to heaven's gate. And 90 minutes later, he came back.
Don Piper was killed instantly when a tractor-trailer hit his Ford Escort head-on, crushing the small car. Paramedics covered Don's mangled body with a tarp. Then, Dick Onaker, a minister, stopped and asked the paramedics if he could pray for Don.
I walked over by the door, great physical damage on the outside, and I laid my hands on him and began to pray for him.
As he knelt over the body, a sound came from beneath the tarp. After spending 90 minutes in heaven, Don had returned to life.
Well, please welcome back a very interesting guest. His name is Don Piper. He's written a book called 90 Minutes in Heaven, and it's good to see you, Don.
It's
welcome.
Good to be
welcome.
here. Good to be anywhere.
Yeah, to be breathing, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
You were dead for 90 minutes. What happened?
I was on my way to church to lead a Bible study on a Wednesday, and crossing a bridge in the middle of nowhere, rural bridge, an 18-wheeler crossed the center stripe and literally ran over my car, just crushed it with me in it. And
you died?
I was killed instantly.
Instantly?
Just,
instantly.
It was, 100 miles an hour of impact, so there was no tunnel. I was just there. 1 second here, last breath here, first breath there, the gates of heaven.
That ain't a bad thing.
No, it was a really good thing. I didn't really want to come back here.
All right, what's it like? What'd you see?
It was the most real thing that's ever happened to me. I was standing at a gate. Of course, the scripture tells us there's 12 of these gates, and I was at one. I was surrounded by people I had known and loved in life who preceded me in death. And what a great reunion heaven is.
Well, you saw family members?
Family members, teachers,
yeah.
Classmates that I'd gone to school with that had died at a young age. My next door neighbor was there. A lot of people that I loved here and cared about here, but I probably wouldn't have expected some of these people to greet me at the gates, but they were there, and I think it's because they helped me get there.
Okay.
Yeah, God sent them out to greet me.
Well, all right, tell me that's the gate. Now you got inside. What's it like when you get in?
Well, actually, I'm going through layers of aroma, layers of angels. They're all over the place, ministering to the people of God, bearing up the people of God. I went through music, unlike any I've ever heard here. Probably thousands of songs at the same time, and yet there was no chaos because they all fit together. They were all glorifying God.
Angels like?
Some had wings, some didn't. They were magnificently beautiful, and they were bearing up people. They were surrounding me. I guess the most amazing thing about was the sound of their wings. You can actually hear the flutter and the kind of the holy whoosh of their wings.
Jesus talk about the beggar Lazarus, that he was carried by the angels.
Yes.
Were they carrying you?
Yes, absolutely.
They were carrying you.
Yeah, there was one in the car with me. When I actually came back 90 minutes later, I was holding the hand of an angel. That's the only thing that really sustained me during that time. So they were here, and they are here, and they were there to greet me and to bear me up. So the angels are magnificent servants of God. We don't become angels, of course, when we go to heaven,
right.
but I was carried by the angels to heaven.
Were they, I hate to use the term subservient, but I mean, the people of God are supposed to be on top of
They
them.
are. Yeah. I got the distinct impression that they were taking care of me. They were ministering to me, and they were the ones who delivered me to the very gate. So when I was there, I knew the way I got there was by them bearing me up. So
Did you see Jesus? Did you see
in the distance, as I approached the gate, I'm looking through, and there really is a golden street, of course, quite incredible, and structures that are more ornate than any I've ever seen here inside the gates. But in the distance, there's kind of a hill, a pinnacle, high and lifted up in the middle of the city. And at that point, I could see the Lord high and lifted up there at the top. A brilliant light that I couldn't have seen with earthly eyes. Of course, I didn't have earthly eyes, but you could see him. What I really wanted to do is run down that street and up that hill and just fall at his feet and say, thank you for letting me be here.
What did you do? What do people do when they get there?
Well, you know, we'll dine at the Lord's table.
Yes.
We'll eat with him, but won't gain weight. Isn't that heavenly? So we'll dine, we'll sing together, we'll bless the Lord, we'll fellowship. I can imagine walking down that street of gold with Paul or Peter and just having a conversation with them. I really think they'll be as glad to see us as we are to see them. There's great fellowship in the Spirit. Not only is there praising God, but there's the fellowship of the saints that are gathered together. It's just the most exciting place I've ever seen. I can't imagine a place more exciting than heaven. Very active.
No tears, no sorrow.
No pain.
No pain.
I want to be in a place there's no pain.
No pain. And well, what about age?
There was no age.
No age?
No, they were ageless. They were all fully developed humans.
Yes.
I wouldn't say adult because that's an earth word.
Yes.
You know, we have stages of life. There are no stages of life in heaven. We were fully developed. You know, Adam and Eve were never children. So I think that's the way God created us, to have a relationship with him, because that's what heaven is all about. So they were ageless. The people I had known here that were young in chronological age didn't look that young there, and the people who were old here didn't look old either. They were ageless.
Well, what about time?
There was no concept of time.
No time?
No, I was killed at 11:45 a.m., and I arrived back here at 1:15 p.m., so that's 90 minutes in earth time. But in heaven, it is timeless. There's no concept of time. I could have been there for 90 years or 90 seconds.
Okay.
You just don't. It's linear. It's propelled forward, but there's no elapse of time because it's an eternal place.
You didn't want to come back, did you?
Oh, not at all. No.
Why'd you come back? Did you fight
Well, people were praying that I would.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, they heard that I did. And then a gentleman that was behind me, behind the accident, who was also a pastor, walked up to the bridge. We saw an interview with him, Dick Onorecker. He had asked to pray for any of the victims, and he was told that they were all right. There were 4 other victims. And they said, well, the man in the red car is dead. That was me. And God spoke to him and said, pray for the man in the red car. Well, he never thought about praying for a dead man, but he knew that God was speaking to him. So he got permission to crawl in the car, put his hand on my right shoulder, and he began to pray for me and sing hymns. 90 minutes after that started, he's singing What a Friend We Have in Jesus, and I start singing it with him. And he got out of the car really fast at that point and went over and said something to the effect, the dead man is singing. And he had to convince them to do it. So I came back to 13 months in a hospital bed, 34 major surgeries, life and death on a day-to-day basis. I had to have external fixators placed on my arm and leg. It was a very, very long, difficult...
Why didn't you get healed?
Why did I get healed?
Why didn't you?
Well, I'm healed to the extent that people don't believe I can still walk because I lost my leg, 4 inches of it, and they had to reattach it. And this arm was in the back seat of the car.
Oh.
So I'm healed that way.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel more healed and alive than I ever was before. I don't recommend getting hit by a truck so you can have that experience. But Jesus said we can have life abundantly here.
You know, we had a question a couple of days ago. You know, the Bible says it's appointed unto man once to die and after that judgment. But what were you doing? I mean,
I don't think I'm going to die again. I think Jesus will come back before I die.
Yeah.
So I think that I will have died once.
So that was the time.
I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going back. I'm not coming back. It's good to be here with you, but I'd rather be there. You know, if you've been there, you want to stay there. It's just the most real place of all.
Smells,
yes,
perfume.
aromas that were sweet and luxurious. I can still kind of remember what they smelled like and the sounds that I've heard there and the people that I embraced while I was there. And the people, my grandfather extended his arms and said, "Welcome home, Donnie." And
you saw your grandfather?
I did, yeah. I was with him when he died, and he was there to greet me when I did.
Praise God.
The cycle was complete.
Don Piper, ladies and gentlemen, this book is he's got 2 books. One's called Getting to Heaven, which is more important perhaps than what it's like once you get there. And he's got one called 90 Minutes in Heaven that relates his experiences. They're available wherever books are sold. Don, it's inspiring, brother, to see you, and thank God.
Delighted to be here.
Yeah.
And I'll see you there.
Together, brother.